Right, what I need to do now is design the top. So I need to have a means of opening it and attachments for the hinge. So what I'm going to do is to place a bit of timber on the top there. Now that I'm going to have to tip it upside down, pencil it round, and then when I come to do my hinge, work out exactly where I need to put this, where the bend, where it's actually going to open. So I'll put my hinge on top and then cut a line straight across, and that'll give me my hinge unit. So as I said, tip it upside down, mark it out, cut it out, and then see where we're going to put the hinge. I mean, try as I may, being an amateur, this isn't going to be 90% true. So by tipping it upside down and marking it out this way, at least I know that the lid is going to fit the size of the box I've got. Always be generous when you start to cut along here. Cut along what used to be called the waist side of the line. Then you can always sandpaper it down to get it exact. Also, when I'm outside using it, this is the top, and I need to work out some sort of mechanism that I can have side shields. I must be getting somewhere with the project now when I start putting little bits of paint on. I'm not too happy with this. I think it's a piano hinge, chrome. It doesn't work. So I'm going to take that off and probably paint it black. If I'm going to the effort of spraying this, I might as well spray top of the screws as well. So I've just drilled holes and lined them up in the same block. The secret to any paint job is preparation. I'm using a small brush. The reason being is by the time I work it into the wood, I shouldn't see a single brush stroke. So it's a case of sort of figure of eights and spread it in, actually work it into the wood, because I'm only using ply, remember, at the end of the day, but I want a good finish. But you can't get a good finish unless you have a good first coat. You can start to see the grain coming through of the timber because they're grain lines, they're not my brush strokes. This is the biggest mistake I've made on the project so far. I'd completely forgot about when I put my viewing section up the top here with the shielding around it. When I need to close it, you'll see what I mean later on, then I haven't allowed enough room to do that. So I've completely redesigned the whole front end. It was a bit of a faff, I mean, just taking it apart, and also just taking apart something that you think, yeah, that's it, I've finished, I'm happy with that. Yeah, back to the drawing board. Now I've finally got round to working on my viewing platform here. It's going to be a mirror inside reflecting the light up. I need to shield it, so I've got a left and a right shield coming on there, and then a back one coming on from here. And I realised that the little wooden block I'd put on the back here to hold my catch is insufficient. I needed it to be wider, so I've had to redesign again. I mean, it is a prototype after all, but it's slowly getting there. I find that using cardboard templates is a good idea because it's a lot easier to cut it with a Stanley knife than it is get the jigsaw out and keep throwing pieces of timber away. I'm now getting to the point where I need to put my mirror in at the bottom here and then work out the exact middle for my viewing screen at the top here. I made numerous models using fiberboard, and purely really guesswork was slightly driving me up the wall. Then it suddenly dawned on me I should be doing this a bit more scientifically. So what I did is place a piece of paper on the side, and then I worked out where the middle of my viewing section is going to be. So this is the lens at the front, and this is the lens at the front at the top. having worked those out, and then need to mark out the middle, which is there, and from the middle I then would end up with a 90-degree vision at the top here on my viewing screen. So this is it, another one out of fiberboard, and that should fit in the bottom, allowing for the width of the base plate here and centralizing it, and that should do it. Let's have a look. So now I've placed my mirror in, and I know that by looking down here at the center I can actually see a set of tools hanging in front of me, and I know exactly where the middle is going to be for that. So that's correct. You probably can't see it if my head's in the way. So now I need to make the proper section here out of timber, so I use ply again, but that should be okay, fingers crossed. Right, having got my two flaps either side, I wanted to put them on a small hinge. They're sent for this is a jewellery box hinge, but basically it was rubbish. By the time you open it, it's distorted and doesn't do what it says on the box. So I ended up putting, these are cabinet hinges, far too big, but at least they did the job. The next step was to design a back section that pulls up and stays there. I tried all sorts of methods, but basically in the end, by the time I've got my flaps open and they push quite tightly against it, in other words friction, it does hold in place. The camera itself slips in here quite easily. That goes in. I was going to have to put a cover or a latch on top of this, but just with a bit of friction that fits in well, so that does secure it. And all I have to do to switch it on is to put the camera into the on position, and you can see the lens come forward. So that's basically all it needs. To operate it, point the camera in that direction towards the subject obviously, and then just press this button and that'll take the picture. And obviously my viewing platform is here. Oh yeah, before I forget, subscribe, give us a tick if you liked it. To give it a bit of realism, this is actually off of an old Voigtlander, about 1930s bellows Voigtlander, but it adds to the authenticity of it. What other things did use? Oh yeah, that was off of an old suitcase and it just happened to fit, so I was really pleased with that. Right, the viewing area, and the whole thing holds together, believe it or not, with cupboard magnets. I tried all sorts of things. That was the best thing in the end. Another little bit on the invention, as I close it up you'll see this, as it switches over, that's off of a clock. It's the minute hand off of a clock, but it works. Keep it simple. Right, what else did we do? I needed to give it the illusion that I could measure the light for the camera, and I got a couple of old light meters, Nebro light meters, and there's no batteries or anything required in them, so all I did was strip the back off of one because I wanted to find out how it works actually, and then just place that on a plate and put it on the side of the camera. It's another little thing that gives it a bit of authenticity. That's a long word to say. On the side here I fitted two knobs to give the illusion that when you wind them forward, that's the mechanism for winding the camera backwards and forwards. This is a film winder. That's off a radiator. I think this is part of a camera of some sort, but it looks like it should operate. I wanted to give the camera some sort of name, and I thought something probably European, like Voigtlander or something along those lines. And when I was younger we did German, and I remember this word, einzigartig. Look it up. It actually means unique, a one-off. That's it. Turned out better than I thought. I'm quite pleased with it at the end of the day. Anybody else, quick glance, it's an old-fashioned camera. The pictures that I'm hoping to sort of replicate from this is I'll put them onto the computer and manipulate them. I want to go for the wet plate look, something like this. Cheers. You can't beat a good cup of tea. The next lot of videos I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the old-fashioned darkroom and see how we can manipulate pictures there and give them just that extra bit of sparkle, something different. See you soon.